Okay, today we're talking about building trust, specifically how to develop it and get other people to buy into your leadership. I think this is probably the most critical aspect of any leader's effectiveness is, will people trust what you're saying? Do they believe that you've got their best interests at heart, that what you're saying is actually good for all of us, and can they buy into what you're trying to do as a leader? I thought of a few ideas that would help us as we figure out, what is the importance, the significance of building trust, and how can I start to do that in my leadership? So here we go. The first one. I think most people are drawn to people that have a lot of knowledge. They have some expertise in what they're in the subject area that they're a leader. For us in band and in music, it comes down to those musical skills that we've got, being a good performer, understanding rhythmic aspects, marching fundamentals, color guard, drumline techniques, all these sort of technical areas that we've got to study hard, we've got to learn and continue to get better and better so that we can give that information away to others and help them learn more. I think one of the first things we do, it draws us into others, is we feel like our leader really does know a lot about the subject area. On the other hand, if we feel like they're lacking in expertise, then it makes us question what they're doing. So really work hard in building your skill set and your knowledge base and becoming an expert in the area that you're teaching in. The second part of that is how we communicate to others. And I think this is the most important one. And maybe it's not the most important, it's certainly maybe the most complicated one. Getting people to buy in through your interactions with them, that sort of social architecture that we have when we're a leader. How do we motivate people and get the best of them? How do we communicate when they're not doing it correctly? How do we communicate when they're making improvement to stay motivated and continue for more and more growth? That communication piece is really important and worth really sinking your teeth in and developing. Because trust really is about relationships. If I feel like the leader and I have a good relationship, I'm working hard for them, they see that work, and they're also working hard back for me and my goals, then we have a synergy. We have an ability to work together in a way that makes high performance really, really possible. And the way that I can feel that way is safety is when the leader treats me with respect, retains dignity in what I'm doing, even if that means a correction. Those things have to happen so that the person doesn't shut down and feel like, okay, I'm not taking any more risks here because I get my head taken off figuratively when that happens. So we've got to have an ability to build those solid relationships as a leader and make people feel safe and in a way that they can take a risk in what we're trying to do. How do you do that? Well, I think one of the best ways to really focus on building relationships and making people feel safe is just being trustworthy. How do you build trust? Be a trustworthy person. For me, that comes down to really just two things. Do you tell the truth? Do you tell the truth when people are working hard and congratulate them and encourage them to work even harder and to keep doing what they're doing? Or when it's not going well and they're making mistakes, can you be truthful and open and honest about that too? I think people don't succeed and they don't trust the leader when they're not dealing in trust, even if mistakes are happening. But we do that in a way that retains their dignity and encourages them to keep going. So truth, always dealing in truth. And then secondly, just treat people the way you want to be treated. This old wisdom of the golden rule. Treat others the way you want to be treated. If you don't like being embarrassed in front of other people, don't do that to the people that you're leading. It turns them off. They don't respond well to that, and it destroys your trust. So think about being a trustworthy person, trust and the golden rule. Deal in truth and the golden rule. Next, servant leadership principles. I love servant leadership philosophies in bands because you're all the time dealing with your colleagues, dealing with your peers, and that's a complicated dynamic. So one of the ways that we build trust in that situation is not by telling them what to do and being in charge all the time, but showing an overt, a proactive and intentional ability to such that their needs and their ideas and their growth is the most important thing. It flips everything around from being a real selfish pursuit as a leader to a real selfless pursuit. When others feel like you've got their best interests at heart, I think they're willing to buy into what you're doing and work really hard for you. So that servant leadership principles, being a person who is there to help and to facilitate growth, to mentor and to coach, that's really important. Next one, your personal example. The way you model what we're supposed to do in this group, in this band, in this organization, that carries a lot of weight for people building trust. If you don't exemplify and work hard in practice and show up prepared and communicate well and treat others with respect, then they're not going to do that for you either. And they're going to sort of ignore many things of what you're trying to do as a leader. They just don't buy in and they don't trust what you're doing. So make sure that your personal example is a really, really great one. Everybody else should be looking up to you for inspiration and for an ideal about what we're supposed to be doing here in this group. And when you do that, then they automatically start to trust what the other things that you're giving and trust that it's going to work out for them too if they copy it. So your personal example is really important. The next one has to do with being a charitable person just overall. Communicating about retaining dignity is important, but also avoiding getting caught up in situations where you're gossiping about other people, maybe about other leaders, about the director, other staff members, other people in the band, people in your section. This is deadly to any leader. When other people hear you being uncharitable and gossiping, getting caught up in drama, it destroys your leadership. And you can do all the other things really well, but if you get tangled up in this, it's really, people are going to start to jump ship. They're not going to be on board with your leadership anymore because they just can't trust what you're going to say about them in another situation. So you've got to build some maturity, build some golden rule, so that you're just not talking about other people badly. Nobody wins when we do that. It makes you look bad and it hurts others and destroys their ability, or at least negatively impacts their ability to keep working hard and to buy into what you're doing. Building trust is also about being a consistent and a predictable leader from day to day. Being consistent so that when people show up to practice, they know what to expect from you. We're going to have a hard-working practice today. We're going to accomplish these goals, and this is the procedure that we go through, and this is the level of work that's expected of me and the level of effort that I'm supposed to give in this organization. It's the same from day to day to day. Doesn't matter if I'm in a good mood, a bad mood. What we produce and what we attempt is consistent from day to day. It also means that when the leader is making corrections and providing feedback, we know if we make a mistake that we're going to hear certain things. We also know that if we do really, really well, we're going to hear certain things and we're going to get feedback on that. So just a consistency of what's going to happen and the predictable nature of what a leader does and how they give feedback and how they respond to everything we're doing, that's super important to building a trusting relationship for your leadership. Lastly, I love the word integrity. For me, it's one of those words that we kind of know it when we see it, but if you really think about what is the definition of integrity, have you ever tried to define that for yourself? What does integrity mean? It's kind of tricky when you think about it that way. For me, I think the best definition I ever heard of integrity is simply that when your words and your actions are integrated. So you become a whole person. You are consistent and predictable so that what you say and what you do, those are the same thing. Recently, I was doing some more research on the word integrity, and I learned that the root of integrity comes from the Latin word integer. You might remember that from your math classes. What's an integer? Okay, those are those whole numbers. So integer means whole or complete. That's what a person of integrity is. They are whole and complete. Their words and their actions are integrated so that what you see is what you get, and what they say is what they're going to do. When these conditions are present, especially people of integrity who have the knowledge base and communicate that well using servant leadership principles, I think you're on your way to building a really high level of trust with those that you're responsible for. Hope this has been helpful for you today. Encourage you to do more learning, continue to build those skills, the knowledge base that you've got, and those communication skills. And if you do that, I think you're going to find yourself where there's a lot of people buying into what you're doing and beginning to trust your leadership.